What is up, everyone? JD here. Hope you're doing well today. We're going to be going over the Remette Peacock. Let's go ahead and get into it. All right, so what we're going to be doing today is we're going to go through some size comparisons, and then we're going to weigh and give my thoughts and impressions for this particular knife. This is definitely a budget knife and a little bit more interesting than I think some people will probably realize. Let's go ahead and jump into the size comparisons. We have the CJRB Echo, and as you can see, this is pretty comparable in size to the Echo, and I was a little surprised by that. The blade threw me off. I thought it was going to be a little bit shorter. Here it is against the Civivi Praxis, and as you can see, the Praxis is definitely more of a full-size knife, and the Remette Peacock is just a little bit shorter. We're going to go ahead and bring the Benchmade Bug out here, and again, almost the same size as the Bug Out. The Bug Out has a little bit more length out there on the blade, but I was surprised again by the size of this knife. Here it is against a ProTech Mordax. And we'll move that Bug Out of the way. We'll go ahead and bring in the Demco 80-20.5, which I think is going to be another very interesting comparison because it's going to be about the same length as that 80-20.5. And then here you go against the Spyderco Shaman, which is going to be a larger comparison. So pretty interesting. Let's do some profiles real quick against some of those smaller knives, or medium, not smaller, medium knives. So here it is against the Demco 80-20.5. As you can see, just a touch thicker. And then we'll go ahead and bring the Echo out here. And I think that is going to be another interesting comparison. And that should do it for us. So about the same thickness, maybe a touch thicker, really close to that Echo. Let me grab the scale real quick. Let's do a weight on this because it feels really lightweight. And I've kind of been missing doing that on some of mine recently. So coming at a very nice 3.2 ounces. And I think this is a 3-inch blade, so not too far off at all. But let's go ahead and jump into this knife here. So you have a very interesting Spyderco-esque looking FRN, but if you look closely, it's actually really smooth. And they're inset or drilled down into the FRN. So giving you that look and giving you that texturing without sticking out, which makes it go in and out of the pocket really nice. You have a solid G10 backspacer that goes at 3/4 of the way of the length. So if you like having that extra protection so that you're not anywhere near the blade or the tip, you're not going to have that issue at all. It's nice and nested down in there. You don't hit it at all whatsoever. So that's really, really cool. You have a nice flipper tab here that is low profile, and it has a little bit of jimping on here, so it works really nice whether you like to light switch or if you like to push button. D10 is really good on here too. You do not need to flick the wrist at all for this. You got good thumb studs that catch very nicely, and you can even get a little bit of a reverse flick on there for some fidget factor. Really cool on this knife. I like that a lot. Pocket clip, I wish that they could have incorporated the screw here for it to be deep carry, because really what's going to end up happening is you're going to have about that much knife sticking out of the pocket. I think if they could have made these in line and moved it up, you could have at least gotten it up to here to get rid of most of that tip, if not all of that tip. And if the screw was hitting there, the reality is the fold over probably would have got it to about here, in my opinion. The other thing that I thought was a little bit of a miss with this is they just didn't make it reversible. I do appreciate that they have it nested here so that it's not going to catch as it's going in the pocket on that bottom bar there. It's going to be really good for, or actually it has been really good for going in and out of the pocket. And it has a nice springy clip. Now here's where my issue is. I've had it a couple times where I've gone in and out of the pocket, and I meant to bring an organizer down here to show you. All I have are my towels, but I can try to demonstrate with my dirty towel. What happens is it catches there a little bit with thicker material. So sometimes you end up kind of missing, or sometimes you end up, if I can get it to do it, you kind of end up hitting, if it's loose like a pants pocket is and it's not tight, it kind of catches and snags a little bit like that. So I think opening that up a little bit more, or raising that tip up just a little bit, coming up a little bit more and not having it angled down so far would make it go in and out of the pocket nicely. Adversely though, it's really comfortable in hand. It's not poking at all. You can tell that it's there, but it's not a hot spot. It is very comfortable. Now with the larger hands, I am kind of hanging off the back a little bit on this one because I have to make room for that flipper tab. But in all honesty, it's not that bad. And overall, it's just a super comfortable knife. The blade is nice and thin. It has a nice belt satin finish on it. Really good edge, very sharp. It just ran through the paper and the cardboard with no issues. And you have a swedge out here, so if you're trying to do some detailed work and you're out here with your thumb, it's going to be really slicey out towards the tip, and that swedge is going to keep it from dragging across anything, so it's going to move through the material nicely. I wish they would have just carried the jimping out a little bit farther, but I think with the size of this knife, the target audience they're going for someone with this is probably not someone with hands as large as mine. As you can see, I swallowed the whole knife up, and again, I am hanging off of the back of it when I'm in a more relaxed position. No space between the fingers, just relaxed, hanging off the back. Now I could try to squeeze up and I can get on there, but as you can see, it's just, you know, digging into my finger. My finger's turning red, so not that great. Lock bar access is done really well on here. They knocked it down. They gave you a little bit of a mill out here to get to that thumb stud. Your lockup is sitting up at about 20-25%, which is really good. The lock bar, again, really easy to get to from the side. If you lay your finger down and you pull up, it's going to work really well. And if you like to lift your finger to get in there to kind of close it with the thumb, that's going to work well also. You have bearings in the pivot. Now, I have not done my disassembly, so I don't know if they're steel bearings or ceramic bearings. I can't remember. Future me, if it's listed on the description, throw that up on the screen for us. But when I do the disassembly, I will definitely get into that for sure. Overall, it's a very interesting knife. You get 9CR 18 MOV, you get nested liners, an inset pocket clip that folds over and goes in fairly deep into the pocket. It doesn't go all the way, but it goes fairly deep. Multiple means of deployment, and meaning that you get flipper, thumb stud, and you can reverse flick off that opposite thumb stud. You can easily use this left-handed because the liner lock is nested down in there. It's not going to get in the way whatsoever, and it has a decent detent. It's not the strongest, and it's far from weak. I would say it's snappy for sure. Really quite impressive. And the most impressive thing about the Remette Peacock is it's under $30. You're getting Sin-Cut level steel. I don't know the heat treat, and I have not tested the edge for an extenuating period of time, so I don't know how well it compares to Sin-Cut, because Sin-Cut does a phenomenal job. So does Civivi when they're using the 9CR and their Damascus steel. The 9CR actually holds an edge a really long time. It stays sharp a really long time, and it's pretty impressive. So I will be curious to see how in the long term this knife will perform. But for $30, there's not much else you're going to get out there. You can take a look at Sin-Cut. Sin-Cut's going to probably run you around $40 to get 9CR. Sin-Cut is giving you G10 and micarta, which micarta makes the knife look a little bit nicer, a little bit more interesting. You can also get a patina going on certain colors of micarta, which is kind of cool if you're into that sort of thing. But for a cheap beater knife with good steel, 9CR is a good steel, and if they're heat treating it, you know, 58 to 59, it's going to perform pretty well. It's quite impressive. I'm not going to really worry about alternative recommendations. Sin-Cut's probably going to be the closest brand that I can recommend that you can get into. You can get some Citivian knives for around that price point, but I'm going to tell you in all honesty, and I'm breaking one out here that I actually had to modify for it to work for me for around $30. This one here, 14C28N. It's the ST149. I could not get to that lock bar. I had to actually knock it down so that I could get to it. And in all honesty, this is a Sativian that I actually don't think is built as well as some of the older ones. I think the ST102 is still my favorite from Sativian. I think that one comes in D2, if I recall correctly. Feature me if you can throw it up on the screen. I think it's D2. I would say that would probably be a closer comparison, but D2 is not as corrosive resistant as 9CR18 MOV. 9CR18 MOV is going to resist rust a little bit better, and D2 is going to hold an edge a little bit longer. So, you know, maybe that Sativian ST102, if I remember right. Hopefully future me will have thrown it up on the screen there to help me out a little bit, because it has actually been a little while since I've messed with that one. But that 149, the ST149, I want to say it's around 30 bucks, and it came with 14C28N and micarta. So it's okay. It came with steel bearings too, which I wasn't too impressed with. We'll find out what this comes with, either when I have thrown it up previously or when I go and do the disassembly on this to check out the internals. But here you're getting nested liners, nice and thin. Honestly, this build quality on this Remette feels better than a lot of the Sativian knives that I have reviewed recently. Now, some of the older ones are smooth too, but I think you're getting 9CR18 MOV at the $30 price point. That to me is really impressive and very easy to recommend the knife. For the money, this is going to be one that's easy to recommend and hard to beat. And on top of that, the presentation is really nice. It came in a, not a fancy box, but it came in a box. A lot of knives don't do that. They usually come with a box with just the knife in a plastic bag or something like that. But you're getting a knife case in here. You're getting a wrap or a sleeve for the knife, so it's coming protected.